Maji kule bungeni ambapo bado kamati ya uhasibu inazidi kuketi na kudadisi haya masuala katika shirika hili la huduma kwa vijana NYS, ambapo ni Sakata ambayo sasa inazungumziwa humu nchini. Hebu tusikize.
It was no. But was she paid money from the system? Yes. I have been able to certify that money was paid to her. Now, the process of how that money was paid, you can follow with a logical conclusion. If there was any collusion between herself or the company and the individual officers, you would be able to know where the rain beaters. So there would be individual responsibility and culpability. Okay. At where I sit at, it would be difficult for me to certify every single document that comes through my office. And that's why the public service is an employer of hundreds of thousands of people, every person with a specific responsibility. And every officer would therefore have to take individual responsibility, because if in the store's record, you falsify that you received goods, you falsify, the store record is an accountable document. The S12, the S13 is purchased from government printer. It has a serial number from this number to this number. When you go to government printer, there is an officer authorized from NYS who signs for those documents, carries them back, puts them under lock and key, issues them to the responsible officer. And that officer must sign that I have received S12 or S13, which are the store's documents, with a serial number from this number to this number. It is their responsibility. They are the custodian of that government, of that document. They have been assigned that responsibility. So if they should go and then enter wrong information, who do you hold accountable? You will hold the officer who liaised. On the issue of fast lane freight forwarders, who are paid about 270 million or 235 million. This is an inherited liability again, dating back to 2013, 2014, 2015. It's one in a series of payments that has been paid to the company for clearing equipment that belongs to NYS that came from China. Was all the documentation there? Yes. Is there memorandums? Is there contracts? Is there this? The documentation is there. Therefore, if for government is a continual, it's a perpetual entity. The liabilities that we incur today, whether I'm in office or I'm not in office, so long as they are payable, even the next person who comes to office has an obligation to fulfill that liability to the supplier. And that is the case for fast-link supplies if the documentation has been verified. And we have checked through what are the things that have been paid to this company. Of course, because we have seen these companies in the media, we have also taken interest to know what did they supply, what did they do. Now bring the documents, let's re-verify. And therefore you would be able to find the exact point at which the chain was compromised.
But then you see, I'm asking from a managerial perspective. Forget about what you have seen in the media. As a manager, granted you inherited these companies.
Yes.
And you start seeing the kind of money that is going to them. Wouldn't you be interested? Wouldn't it arouse your curiosity and to try to understand them better in a way of mitigating any possible risks?
Mr. Chairperson, we did. In fact, as soon as I took office, I took office, oath of office, 18th December 2015. January 2016, what did we inherit? Thousands of payment claims. And all the officers handling them, none of them was in office. Either they were before court, they were on interdiction, or had been moved. To even make sense to these claims, I administratively constituted what we called a pending bills verification committee, which was an administrative control mechanism that I took on as the principal secretary. Collect the documents, put them together, make sense of them, and who are the people we appointed? We appointed from across the State Department, right from the headquarters to the NYS, with different cadres of officers, from senior most officers to middle-level managers, so that they could be able to input, to compile this documentation to make sense to the claims. Now, in my assumption, Mr. Chairperson, any supplier who's owed by government will not understand if we tell them that we are doing nothing because we are new into the office. You take measures, administratively or otherwise, and you rely on the principle of individual responsibility in the decisions that emanate from these committees. The committees were able to tell us they have gone through these documents, this company, it can be paid, all their documentation is in order, this one cannot be paid because of this reason, and those reports are signed by all the committee members. Now, based on what they verified as payable, they then take them to begin the payment process. The payment process, as I've enumerated from page 9 to 16, is a lengthy process with individual responsibility, which is one of the things that was lacking at the institution there before. And we have ensured now that every officer who has responsibility either to examine, to verify, to approve, they have a letter giving them that responsibility. So if the ball drops, we will be able to know exactly where the ball has dropped. It's not rocket science, not at all.
Okay. Honorable Mutua, who is it?
Chairman, last two questions will be, Lilian, your process of procurement, payment has been very clear. What is not clear is the process of identification of contractors or suppliers. Is it 100% authentic? Because we are seeing all manner of contractors, some are supplying air, some supplying unknown things. And my other question is, are the women of this country, the youth and the people living with disability, benefiting from the supplies and the tenders that you give in your department? Because we have that, the 30% that was set aside. Is there a possibility for you to table in this committee the women, the youth and the people living with disability who have benefited in your department on the 30%? And if you have any unpaid bills, Lilian, can you tell us why they have not been paid?
Thank you, Chairperson. Oh, sorry.
My question that she answers.
Yeah.
Chairman, DG and Dubai and PS Lilian Mbogo, the summary of what you are telling this committee on this issue is that it is corruption fighting back. That is essentially what you are telling us. But that's why I asked two questions. One, on this allegation of 9 billion, and I asked it earlier, the 62 summonses by ESCC, have you been summoned on this? Because ESCC is primarily supposed to look at corruption matters. Two, and that now leads from the question the response. The investigative agencies, have they specifically asked you and have you helped them identify the particular officers concerned with the companies asked by the chairman and asked by my colleague, Honorable Rono, the 60 million air supply? Have you helped them identify who are the officers? Because you are telling us in this statement that your system is such that you can identify who is responsible. And the question I asked earlier, which is my last, in view of this, why have you stepped aside? Thank you.
Please summarize.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll start with the question of Honorable Mutua on the process of identifying suppliers. For the record, all the procurement processes that we inherited from the previous parent ministry, a lot of them were based on supplies branch contracts. We did an open pre-qualification process and we used a list of pre-qualified suppliers as at October 2016, all of whom went through an open pre-qualification system. And that is the list that we use. We have not used any supplies branch contracts in the period that I've been in office. AGPO, the ministry as a whole, is not the State Department of Public Service and Youth. We are at 54% in terms of the number of contracts, business value, even in terms of money that has been awarded to AGPO-based companies. We are at 54%, and I believe we are the leading State Department across the entire government. On unpaid bills, we have very many unpaid bills. Mr. Chairperson, for this committee's record, we have about 1,600 delivery notes of claims of goods that were supplied to NYS that have not a single documentation beyond a delivery note. Out of the final pending bills verification committee, which was chaired by our head of internal audit for the ministry and a team of auditors from the ministry, we resolved that for all these delivery notes for the owners, we write to them letters telling them their claim is not payable. We are not able to do anything with them. Mr. Chairperson, at a different sitting, I will bring the schedule of all the summons by EACC and the things that they have investigated our office over. It is largely on process. When they come, they want you to submit to them a requisition, the LPO, the opening minutes, the tender opening, the evaluation minutes, the what, a list of almost ideally 17 documents is what they want. Even where we have genuine suppliers who will come and say, I supplied this table. But now the law is what the law is. The regulation does not allow me to pay you based on just your word that you supplied and you have a delivery note, but I have nothing else to support your claim. You did not follow the procurement process. So these 1,600 delivery notes, which we have listed all of them, and we have a record at NYS because the suppliers still come. And we tell them, please go to NYS, go find out the status of your payment. If we don't have documentation, we are not in a position to pay you. We have another schedule of unpayable bills because they have several documents, accountable documents missing. Somebody may have an LPO, but the LPO was not signed by the AIE holder because the AIE holder is the only person with the authority to incur expenditure. All those AIE holders are no longer in office. You have minutes that are not signed. The chairperson of the MTC, which was then the authorization of the documentation, was no longer with us, was no longer in office. If the minutes are not signed, even if you have the LPO, the law restricts me. I am not in a position to make that decision. And I have sought counsel in writing from the Treasury, from other institutions. What do we do with these pending claims? And I do pray that this committee would help us find a closure and a way forward on how we deal with these pending bills. Because for every supplier who's owed money by NYS, I can assure you, we spend sleepless nights over their threats, over their consistent calls, over their intimidation. That is has become part of our daily lives. So there has to be a way we find to put a closure. And Mr. Chairperson, I request this committee further. Even today, if we were to leave office, the government must find a way of putting a closure to issues from one management team to another management team. Otherwise, the problems will just continue being latent until when they hit the media saying 9 billion shillings is lost. On the issue of have we been investigated on these companies, for example, on the matter of Fastlink, I am the recipient of almost all the correspondence from EACC. And because they have come so many times, I can almost tell you, even when somebody calls me and says, I'm looking for this letter from EACC, I'll tell you, is this company being investigated? I will know. I will remember because it's my day-to-day interaction with the EACC. I have not seen any letter that has come from EACC investigating this company. First lane forwarders, yes, I have seen a letter. As soon as we paid them, a week later, EACC came and requested for all the payment documentation that we had paid them. So there have been investigations going on some of the companies. Some of them we have not seen any investigations going on. Why have we stepped aside? I think really it's, like I said earlier, Mr. Chairperson, I cannot overemphasize. The public, based on what comes out to them, can prosecute you, jail you, crucify you, and we just thought that for the sake of the bigger picture, because it was also destroying the institution. Those young people, when they hear that their 9 billion shillings has been stolen, I mean, it destroys the core of their trust in us as the office bearers. So it's only prudent that we would step aside, if only to allow for objective investigations and for a level of some sort of responsibility on ourselves to the institution, so that we do not continue to have a damaged institution because we are still in office. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, I can see it is, I want to give some guidance soon as the Honorable Macau comes in. I can see it is almost 1 p.m. And it's apparent we shall not go into paragraph 286 as we had envisaged because of time. But all the same, I think, yeah.
She's answered quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I know, but not formally in terms of. So I think I will allow, firstly, the Honorable Macau if he has an issue to raise, but secondly, if there is any other officer who is before us who may want to make a comment or two on the issues that have been canvassed so far, to do so, because from where we sit, once we adjourn, we are not reconvening at 2 or 2:30 as we had thought, because again, most of the honorable members have got commitments in the constituencies which they want to attend to. Yeah, it therefore means that once we adjourn, we may have to give you a new date when you will appear before us to conclude the rest of the issues in respect of those 2 financial years. So first, Honorable Macau, and secondly, the officers who have accompanied yourselves. Okay.
Thank you. Chair, Madam Pierce has just alluded that everybody who is AIE holder is known to her, and your averse and the knowledge of IFMIS is not in doubt. But I've just checked. On the 19th of April 2016, you received 54,600, and the director NYS received 25,363, and that is on Annex 6. That is 2016, 2015, 2016, and the heading is payments in bank statements, not in cash book.
So is it
Which
the
way is
audit
that?
report?
Yeah, I think it was on the 2015, 2016, on your reply, in your replies.
Response to which particular query?
That was pending bills or unaccounted.
No. They just deal with the paragraphs we are at, which is 285 and 150.
Oh, we are past that.
We are not yet there.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
Then I will.
Yeah.
I'll recap it.
Okay, fine. Now, that being the case, Madam Lilian and Dr. Muya, if you could allow any of the officers who has got an issue comment to make, they can do so now, or yourselves, before we can adjourn. Yeah. In any order.
Do you have any comment?
Okay.
Honorable Chairman, I have no other comment. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we shall give you new dates, yeah, for your next appearance. Otherwise, thank you very much
Thank you, Chair.
for taking your time to appear before us and answer to the queries.
Chair, before you close, because you've been the chair, just maybe some of the documents would require Madam PS to furnish us. Also, it would be the constituencies and the cohorts, all the constituents that received, then the ones that have not been able to benefit from the cohorts.
All those documents should come to us by Tuesday, the 5th of June 2018.
Tuesday?